Hey, and welcome to the highlights of episode number 261 with Dr. Stephen Cabral. Some of my favorite parts of this episode were when he shares with us the real causes of cellulite, acne, and bad breath, plus what we can do about those things. But I also loved it when he dove deep into eating disorders and eating issues and the impact that they are having on our body. The information is so important, and I can't wait for you guys to dive in. And there is so much more wisdom, information, and knowledge that you get in the full episode. So to listen to the full podcast and get all the info in the show notes, head on over to melissaambrosini.com/261 right now. Welcome, Stephen. I'm so excited to have you back. This will be your 5th time on my show. So let's dive right in because I know time is precious. And the first thing I want to talk to you about is cellulite. Okay, so I know a lot of women listening are like, oh my gosh, yes, I have cellulite. I want you to tell us what actually is cellulite. What is happening in the body when it manifests as cellulite? What does it mean and how can we get rid of it?
And absolutely, this is a huge topic because 90% of all women at some phase of their life are most likely going to have one of the 3 grades. There's basically 3 grades of cellulite that you can have. Technically 4, there's one more grade before that, which is no cellulite. So what happens though, and I'll go through the grades first. You have no cellulite, or you can have a small amount. So it's basically smooth skin, and then there's just tiny little dimples. People refer to it sometimes as like an orange peel type look. And I'll go over why that happens in just a moment because you have to always know the why. If you know the why of how it happened and what's happening under the skin, then you know how to reverse it. So grade 2, what we're looking at is, although you may see a slight amount of cellulite while not seated, when you sit down, it's more pronounced. So that means when you're sitting down in a chair and the fat cells, the adipose tissue, are actually being condensed together, you begin to see more of those dimples or more of that orange peel based appearance. So that's phase 2. Now, phase 3 or grade 3 is when you see the cellulite, there's deeper dentations, we'll say, or dimples in the act. Now, typically it's around the thighs, but you can get cellulite anywhere. And this is when it's more pronounced every day, walking around, whether you're seated or not. The thing is this, though. If you didn't have it when you were 6 years old, 8 years old or so, we can say this was caused for a reason. This happened for a reason. So my job is to always keep asking why, and we can figure out the why because cellulite happens because your fat cells, your adipose tissue, become enlarged and they actually start to press through the connective tissue. They become intertwined with the fascia of the rest of your leg. We're going to just use the thighs as an example because the back of the thighs and around the butt, the glutes, are the most common place to see it. So what we need to do is, now that we know that the structure of the fat cells and the connective tissue under the surface of the skin has changed, what do we do in order to restructure, rechange the fascia and the fat cells?
What are the toxins that contribute to that?
A couple of things are parabens, anything to do with phthalates, pesticides, glyphosate, anything that raises your overall toxicity in the body. If you're exposed to plastics or PCBs or parabens, it can raise your own internal levels from exogenous, means from the outside. So the outside can raise the inside levels of estrogen. And the more dominant, more estrogen dominance you have can create more cellulite as well. So hormones are a big factor. Toxicity is a huge factor, especially in today's day and age. And then we also have couple other things. As women age, again, men as well, but mainly women, the muscle tone starts to be less. So now it's harder to keep even the structure in place and the metabolism starts to go a little bit lower. So you start to gain some more body fat. So the last causal factor is absolutely dysregulated blood sugar. So higher levels of insulin, which again can raise estrogen. It can raise cortisol. It can raise overall inflammation. And all of these things can lead to cellulite. And that's why there's never one silver bullet of how to fix these things, but for sure they can be fixed because I only named about 6 different things. If you correct those, you can correct the cellulite, and we can go through some of those ways to do that if you'd like.
Yes, please. Let's do it.
So in order to start the process of healing cellulite, and it does have to be healed, is that we need to restructure the area, but we also have to get better blood supply. So the only way that we can cause the toxins to be pushed out of those fat cells is to also get more blood flow there and create better drainage. So literally, we need to drain out that area of the body. Any way we can do that is going to be beneficial. Anything that gets the body pumping. But doing hatha yoga or yoga based movements is actually really great for pumping the capillaries. So jumping on a rebounder is great. Now, dry brushing is often done incorrectly because people just kind of brush their body. What you want to do is always stroke with the dry brush gently. It's not meant to actually exfoliate your skin. It's just meant to be, when I say 1 to 3 millimeters of pressure, I'm talking about very light pressure with a dry brush because that's where the lymphatic system is. And then always move towards the heart. Sauna is amazing. So sauna is going to help with detoxification. If a lot of your listeners have heard about foam rolling or self-myofascial release on a foam roller, it's a great way to restructure that area as well, open up the fascia. And then a few of my other favorites are just self-massage with some sesame oil. Those are really, really nice. One more thing I might add is just make sure that you're getting enough protein, amino acids on a daily basis, collagen, if you prefer, and then your vitamins like vitamin C is crucial, making sure that you're getting enough zinc, magnesium to help with the processes.
What are your thoughts on, I don't know what they're called, but there's some places you can go where they freeze the cellulite, or there's these machines. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know what they're called.
Well, there's shockwave machines. There's also ultrasound-based machines. And all of these things, well, there's a couple. The freezing can actually be to kill some of the fat cells themselves. That's not the ideal. We don't want to do that. But the ultrasound actually has some benefit to it. But mainly from the restructuring. I'm not saying that that's necessarily bad, but you could do that on your own. Self-massage, a foam roller. You're going to get kind of that massage-based effect as you would with some of the machines.
What's going on internally when we get acne, and how can we fix it?
So the biggest reasons I see for acne, meaning if we use the 80-20 rule, or we even just say what's 80% of causing it for most people, we refer to it as dirty blood. And that's just the affectionate name we say is like your body has bacteria, has hormones, it has things in the blood that it's looking to get out of the body. And the skin is a very easy way to do that. So easy that your skin was built as the largest excretory organ on the body. It can be exacerbated by higher levels of estrogen. And let's say that you can't, again, at-home lab testing is the absolute best for this, but let's say that you can't test your cycle between days 19 and 23 or so. Well, you can ask yourself this. About 5 days to 7 days before you're about to get day one of menstruation, do you start to get a little bit more acne? And if so, we could say, okay, well, most likely that is a sign of estrogen dominance. And then that could be one of the big causal factors of being able to balance cortisol levels, stress, inflammation, again, toxicity, and regulating blood sugar. So what goes hand in hand with acne is typically a lot of times blood sugar and insulin, which affects estrogen. It affects testosterone, and all of these things greatly affect women as well as men. So hormones and blood sugar are a huge part of this equation. Of course, eating cleaner, all of those things are great, but also looking at everything that goes into our body or on our body, which are different types of moisturizers and makeups and anything that may have toxins in them as well. Or I think people will oftentimes find sometimes even one of their favorite foods might be causing some of that acne. For me, my body doesn't really like chocolate for whatever reason. It ends up having a little bit of acne. So hopefully that makes sense.
So what are some of the short-term things that we can do? Because I know as well, a lot of people want to put makeup all over it to cover it, which might not be the best thing to do. What are some other things that we can do? Like, is it a matter of just writing it out? I mean, any other things that we could do just in the short term?
Absolutely. And so if you think about it, if your body is trying to get out these things through your skin anyways, well, we can do a couple things. We can make sure that we're getting half our body weight in ounces of water per day. So in pounds, I always use the example of a 160-pound person. That would be 80 ounces of water per day. And if we divide 80 by 8, which is a cup for ounces, we would get 10 cups of water per day, 10 glasses of water per day. What's it going to do? Well, our blood's 90% water. The blood plasma is 90% water. It's going to flush the body to a greater degree. Then we want to do an overnight fast, 12 hours, 6 o'clock at night to 6 in the morning, 7 at night to 7 in the morning. You might even do a couple extra hours. What does it do? Well, it gives your body now more time to deal with what's already on the inside before you put more in. Every time you put more food in, or more in general of whatever it is, your body has to clean up, even if it's healthy food. So that's what you can do from diet and cleanliness not wise. The other way is a nice facial steam. Again, help your body get it out of the pores. So you can do this by simply heating up a washcloth and putting that on your face and just kind of steaming your face. Or you could boil some water. You could put a towel over it, let the steam come up. You could get in the sauna, whatever you want to do to open up those pores, get all those toxins out of the pores. And then, just like you said, after that's done, you can put a little bit of vitamin C serum on your face. On the acne specifically, you could use tea tree. You could use a little grapefruit seed extract. You could use some neem oil, which is really effective. So all of those are really helpful.
Tell us why you would want to avoid the Roaccutane and the other hardcore drugs that a lot of people do take for acne. Tell us why we would want to avoid those.
If you have acne, there's something else most likely going on as well. You might start to feel a little bit more tired. You might have some bloating. Listen to those symptoms. Those symptoms are what allow you a decade, 2 decades, 4 decades from now to still be having the energy, vitality, confidence, and all that to live life to its fullest. So if you continue to put Band-Aids on top of problems, and again, we've all been taught that. I mean, I did it for my entire life until finally I broke. When I broke, I realized that I had to pull off all these Band-Aids, figure out actually how to heal all these different cuts, and then I can get well.
So let's now talk about bad breath.
For sure. And again, being in a clinical practice, we'll sit across from people and I'm just like, oh, well, yeah, there's most likely a gut issue going on here. Because the easiest way to think about it is this. Let's say that you have a garbage disposal at home in your sink and you forget to turn on that switch and make it go down the drain. Whatever happens when you turn on a garbage disposal, I don't actually know. But I know that it leaves the garbage disposal area. But what happens is if you don't do that, the food down there starts to rot. It starts to ferment. It starts to grow bacteria and it starts to putrefy. And you smell that. The same with your trash. You empty your trash every day, every couple of days. And the reason is if not, you're smelling rotted food. Well, what happens in our gut is that the food rots in the same exact way. So after how the body works is basically we swallow food, we swallow it once, it gets moved down the esophagus 14, 18 inches down into the stomach. If the food stays in that stomach for longer, and especially if it doesn't move through for a couple hours, it's going to start to grow bacteria. It's going to start to ferment because most likely there's not enough stomach acid, which kills all of that bacteria. That's why stomach acid always gets a bad rap because people have acid reflux. But most likely it's not the stomach acid's fault. It's because of a faulty digestive system.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. And it's not something that you just want to mask, like with the cellulite and with the acne. You don't want to mask the bad breath with brushing your teeth more or chewing gum, or anything like that. You want to get to the root cause.
Mouthwash and chewing gum can often make things worse because what happens is your mouth is supposed to have a specific pH balance. And when it becomes too anaerobic, too acidic in the mouth, that's actually what causes more of the cavities. But it can also cause more of the bad breath. It starts to break down the enamel on the teeth. And we don't have a balance of good bacteria in the mouth. We actually have more anaerobic-based bacteria. So yes, let's always work at the scene. Like, yes, let's clean our face with good products. And let's clean the mouth with good products. But let's never try to mask it. Let's work on the deeper causes, which are happening in the gut, like you referred to.
Something else that I learned from you, which I found very fascinating, was the bacteria that breeds in the mouth guards that a lot of us people who have had braces, usually we are given a mouth guard to put on at nighttime or Invisaligns or things like that. And what I learned from you in one of your episodes was that they can harbor a lot of bacteria. So can you talk to that and what can we do about that?
Well, and that's the hard thing because if you're using Invisalign instead of wearing braces or doing something like that or teeth whitening or whatever it might be, the problem is the bacteria pools right at the gum line. And our gums go directly through the capillaries to the heart. And so that's why this bacteria, you don't want that bacteria going to your heart. It can actually cause cardiovascular and heart-based disease and issues like that. And that's very well proven. It's one of the reasons why I know it doesn't make any sense, but flossing actually cuts down on heart disease. Now, flossing, when you think about it, doesn't actually have anything to do with the heart, but what it does is it removes the plaque, it removes bacteria, gingivitis, tartar, all that, the type of thing that goes on with the teeth, and it gets rid of that. Now, that's why it's helpful, because that plaque, tartar, builds up, goes into the bloodstream through your gums, and then it can start to accumulate around the arteries and the heart.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So, what are some other alternatives that we could potentially look into so that we're not, letting that bacteria breed?
So we have to find a device or a way that the bacteria would not pool overnight in the same spot against the gums. So that's what I recommend. And then also, if it was a shorter term thing, but if they're saying, okay, you have to wear a plate or retainer for the rest of your life, then that's where it starts to get a little iffy for me, like that, but it's always about weighing the pros and cons, right? It's always about, okay, how long am I going to do it for? Am I just going to use it maybe for the last trimester when there's more relaxant? Like, how are you going to look at it? And so I always let people know, get all the information you can, gather it all together, weigh the pros and cons, and do what you feel is best for you. And how I make that decision is I always say, what I regret not doing it or what I regret doing it. And so that's what I look back. Like hindsight, we always say, oh, it'd be great if I did that. But always just say, what would I regret? And then try to figure out the decision from there.
Now, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about eating disorders, things like bulimia and anorexia. What is that actually doing internally to us?
So I like to look at this and say, there's no doubt in my mind, there might have been trauma in childhood. So we look at that, we work on that. We also work on vitamin levels, gut-based function, foods that are causing your brain not to function well. How about all the food dyes and things? I mean, if your products you're eating or your cosmetics that you might be using have red 5 in them, or they have some type of dye or paint or iron or lead, these could be heavy metal, could be copper toxicity. And the copper is affecting the way that you're looking at yourself, that lens through the world. So with an eating-based disorder, this is a chapter of your life. We don't want to deny it. What we want to do is work through it so that we finish this and then we move on with the rest of your story, right? The rest of your life. And here's the things we can do from a physiology level, a chemistry level. Your body needs the right neurotransmitters. It needs the right vitamins and minerals in order to be able to get the mood that you want. A lot of people don't know that. Dopamine can be increased through things like tyrosine and proper gut bacteria. You have too much Clostridium difficile, you actually produce way too much dopamine, cause a lot of anxiety and overwhelm. So we look at these things and we actually help them from both sides of the equation. And, again, if I can share anything, it's that there is hope. You can overcome this. And I'm telling you right now, it may not seem easy, but this is just one chapter of your life.
That's why I love your program, IHP, so much. I just think what you've created with that is just awesome.
I appreciate that. And that is our mission. I mean, our tagline is literally heal yourself and heal others, because after you get well, you have to pay it forward. I mean, you are going to be the role model that they see and like, wow, like, how did you do that? You look 5 years younger. You look 10 years younger. You look like you have such a healthy glow. And when they see that you no longer have the bad breath or the acne or cellulite or whatever, it's going to say, how can I do that too? And so that's really what it's all about is simply paying that forward, learn as much as you can, keep reading, listen to podcasts, because sometimes the information doesn't apply to you, right? But maybe it does in 5 years from now, or maybe you have a friend that it does. And most likely we all do.
What are you really excited about at the moment in the health world? Like, is there any new science, anything new that's exciting that you're discovering or anything like that at the moment that has been brought to your attention?
So what I'm looking to do is create a more holistic but succinct way of helping to rejuvenate the body about a half hour to an hour a day at a much faster rate. And I can't say that I'm there yet. I'm not, but it's something that I'm working on. And I'm actually working through the Rasayanas and the Ayurvedic based forms of rejuvenate the body, but combining that with new forms of this hollow sync binaural based beats and actually looking how it changes heart rate variability. So I know I'm kind of geeking out here a little bit, But that's something that I'm very passionate about. And one of the reasons why I was just in Germany last week looking at some of the different devices and machines, because even though I'm a huge proponent of Ayurvedic medicine and the ancient forms of wisdom, I'm looking to combine that with all of the new technologies as well and have the best of both worlds.